We have a number of companies reporting earnings, and if you're an investment professional, that means that you're going to be busy reading up on transcripts, articles, and press releases to see how your companies did in Q3. I know that can be tedious putting all that data together, but no worries, because ChatGPT and large language models are here to help make your life easier. Check this out. Say I'm tracking 4 names in my portfolio: Netflix, Goldman Sachs, Tesla, and Procter Gamble, and they just had their Q3 earnings release, and I want a way to quickly see how each of those companies are doing in a consistent fashion. How can I leverage large language models to pull that data together? So in this report, what I've done is I've pulled the name, ticker, the sector, the industry, a summary of Q3 earnings, some negatives, some positives, an outlook summary, a market reaction summary, and some global macro implications from the earnings release. I also do that for Goldman Sachs, I do that for Tesla, and I also do that for Procter & Gamble. The cool thing about this is that each one of these components is coming from a particular large language model prompt. The other cool part about this is that I just had to write out those instructions once and scale it across the other names in this fictional portfolio. And I'm going to show you how I did that. My name is Manny Bernabe, and I am all in on low-code LLM platforms. In particular, I'm interested in finance and investment management. That's my background. I spent a lot of time in the space, and I love bringing these two worlds together of large language models and financial services. For this particular example, I'm leveraging a low-code platform called LastMile. LastMile allows you to interweave different types of models and instructions to put together a workflow. So let me walk you through an example here. I'm inputting an article for Netflix on Q3 earnings, and then I'm asking it to leverage ChatGPT-4 to write a summary of that report, to give me the name and the ticker, to give me the sector and the industry, to give me a list of negative or bearish points, to also do that for positive or bullish points, and to give me an overall assessment, whether that's bullish, neutral, and bearish, and a 1-sentence explanation as to why the large language model gave it that designation. I'm also asking it for a quick summary on the market reaction for earnings for that particular company. And then I'm also asking it to list a number of global macro implications from that earnings. So for example, Netflix is a consumer type of play. Depending on how Netflix did, it might tell me a little bit about how the US consumer is doing. That's the basic setup. Now let me give you an example of how this works. So if I want to add a new cell here, I have a number of different options here, but let's say that I want to add another chat model to work with, and I wanted to translate this section into Spanish. Let me grab here global macro, and let me say that I want you to translate handlebar global macro output into Spanish, and then I can run that cell, and then it'll output it in Spanish. And I'm referencing the output from this cell by these handlebar variables here, which is really neat. That allows you to abstract the workflow and apply it to other names in your portfolio. That's the cool part, just how you get to work with these different cells. The way that I described it on Twitter, this is like a Jupyter notebook for AI workflows. Very powerful framework. I really like it. But the kicker here is that you can batch this workflow. So I can apply this same workflow to many different types of names in my portfolio. Let me show you how I do that. First of all, I ready a CSV with articles for different companies in my portfolio. So here is Tesla, this is Netflix, this is Goldman Sachs, and Procter & Gamble. Then I go back to my workbook and I say run as a batch. And then I can insert the CSV here. That seeds the input parameter for this workflow. Then I let that run, and it'll run that same workflow for each one of those rows in that CSV. So if I click on this, and this, what you'll see is that this is the Netflix one, so we saw that earlier. But here it is for Goldman Sachs. So again, the summary, the name and the ticker, the industry and the sector, the list of bearish bullet points, the list of bullish bullet points, so on and so on. Then it also did that for Tesla. Here's the summary, the high-level meta information, the list of bearish points, and then we see the same for Procter Gamble as well. So you could scale this to 5, 10, 15 names in your portfolio, and it'll output the same type of information. Then you can grab this from the output CSV and put it in your report and send this off to investors or a portfolio manager, all in a nice structured fashion. So really, really neat. I wish I had a tool like this back in my equity research days. I think something like this would be very useful for folks that are keeping track of a number of different names in a portfolio. I'm going to include a promo code for LastMile down below. Go check it out. I'm curious to see what you're going to build. If you have any questions, any comments, let me know. Also, follow me here on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, X, Substack, if you want to keep up to date on low-code, large language model platforms, in particular for use cases around finance and investment management. As I explore these different platforms, I'm going to be leveraging a lot of financial and investment management use cases to bring you demos and examples of how professionals are going to be leveraging large language models to do their work easier, faster, and more efficient. My feeling is that you're going to be leveraging platforms like LastMile to orchestrate your custom large language model workflows and to also scale them out and do it in batch fashion. In the past, I would have recommended going from Excel to SQL to Python. I think the new path for an investment analyst or an investment professional is going to be to do Excel, ChatGPT, and then a large language model orchestration platform like LastMile. So this is going to give you a nice flavor of what that's going to look like. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, any comments, drop them below, and I'll catch you next time. Bye.